Movie buffs, welcome back to the Movie Bay, and in today's video we're going to do a take 10 on Samuel L. Jackson. Now these aren't the greatest Samuel L. Jackson movies. These are 10 movies that I pulled out that I thought were really good Samuel L. Jacksons. Some of these are my favorite Samuel L. Jacksons, some aren't, but these are 10 really cool Samuel L. Jackson movies. Now, disclaimer, we're not going to cover any of his MCU stuff. That's just a whole different ball game. I'm focusing on movies where Samuel L. Jackson was either a star or a co-star throughout the entire film. His role in the MCU as Nick Fury is very small, very limited. The most action he had in the entire franchise, in my opinion, was in Captain Marvel. So I'm going to exclude all his MCU stuff and focus on standalone Samuel L. Jackson movies. So starting up with Samuel L. Jackson, this take 10, we're going to talk about now. I'm not going to do the usual runtime, year release, and all of that stuff. We're just going to talk about these movies, and it's going to probably take about 10 minutes, probably. Right here we have The Negotiator. So you got Samuel L. Jackson, Kevin Spacey, and a host of others in this movie. This movie came out, I do believe, in the early aughts or the late 90s. I think it was like 99 or something like that. I said I wasn't going to go into the year. I'm not going to harp on it, but this came out in the late 90s or the early aughts. Samuel L. Jackson is a negotiator, and he was set up and framed by his own department, where he was very smart, and he decided to get a cop from another department who didn't have no ties with his department to help him out, and that's where Kevin Spacey's character, Sabian, comes into play. Very good movie. Samuel L. Jackson is in top form, and so is Kevin Spacey. This was the first movie that I saw with Kevin Spacey in it. This movie didn't make me a Spacey fan right away, but I take that back. The Usual Suspects is the first movie I saw with Spacey. But this movie, I was already somewhat of a Spacey fan, but this movie didn't do it. What really made me a Spacey fan was American Beauty. But anyway, The Negotiator. Next up, we got Coach Carter. Coach Carter was a really good movie. It was about a basketball coach who wanted to clean up the school, clean up the team. This got Lean On Me vibes to it. So if you liked Lean On Me with Morgan Freeman playing Joe Clark, you're definitely going to like Coach Carter. This one right here was crazy. This was really good. This will put you in the mind of Mississippi Burning a little bit. Yeah, Mississippi Burning. But this is A Time to Kill with Samuel L. Jackson, Sandra Bullock, Matthew McConaughey. It's basically about, the racist South, the racist American South back in the day. Black man, he got tired of being pushed around. His daughter was raped, was brutally raped, almost killed. So he took the law into his own hands. He took a rifle. I'm not sure if it was an AR-15 or looked like an M6. Whatever. We're not going to focus on that too much. But he took a rifle and he took the law into his own hand. And it was a really, really crazy movie. It was basically, imagine the Deep South back in those times where the Ku Klux Klan was a thing. So that's what you get with A Time to Kill. Matthew McConaughey did a wonderful job. Sandra Bullock did an awesome job. And Samuel L. Jackson was in top form, just like he is in pretty much everything. Next up, we have another one. Here's one that is, in my opinion, I think this is a very underrated Samuel L. Jackson movie. When we talk about Samuel L. Jackson movies, and I tried to pick a couple of movies here that don't really get mentioned when you talk about Samuel L. Jackson movies. This one is one that I really think should be really right up there when you talk about Sam L. Jackson movies, and that's Rules of Engagement with Tommy Lee Jones. So basically, in this one here, Samuel L. Jackson is a general in the U.S. military, and you know how the military, well, in other movies, you know how the military, the high-ups are made to look like they would do anything to cover something up, including roll one of their own under the bus. So Samuel L. Jackson was basically framed for giving a order to gun down civilians in another country. But as it starts to unravel and you start peeling back all the layers, you'll see that he was right. And Tommy Lee Jones was a military lawyer who had some issues, but he was a damn good lawyer, and he got down to the bottom of it. This one is fantastic, and this is one that really should be brought up more when Tommy Lee Jones and Samuel L. Jackson are discussed in their top movies, because this is a top Tommy Lee Jones movie too, because he had almost as much screen time as Samuel L. Jackson did. Next up, here's one that I really enjoyed a lot. This was a different Samuel L. Jackson different type of movie for him, but he did a fantastic job in this. And this is Unbreakable, M. Night Shyamalan's Unbreakable. So this was playing off of the M. Night Shyamalan line of movies like The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, Glass, Split. Basically, Unbreakable, he's made of glass, and it plays right into the Glass movie. Really good movie. It was very different. When I first saw this was just very, very different, but it was very, very good at the same time. Next up, here's another one that I think that don't get talked about enough. Now, Unbreakable, this definitely comes up in discussions around Samuel L. Jackson filmography. But here's one that really don't. Freedom Land. Now, you got Samuel L. Jackson and Julianne Moore. Basically, her son was kidnapped. I'm not sure. It's been a while since I've seen this one. I saw it one time when I first got this DVD many, many years ago. And if memory serves me, the son was either kidnapped or killed. And Samuel L. Jackson is like a ex-cop who was a private investigator trying to find and track down her son. Very suspenseful. It leads him to this place called Freedom Land, where a lot of stuff is unraveled. Good movie. I may even give this one another watch to just bring me back up to speed on this one. But that's a movie that don't really get discussed in the Samuel L. Jackson's filmography. Next up, here's one that do get discussed. But, you know, a lot of this, the Samuel L. Jackson stuff, people really kind of gravitate towards the Tarantino stuff. But here's one that is excellent. A really good Samuel L. Jackson movie. So you got Samuel L. Jackson and Gina Davis. Long Kiss Goodnight. Even Samuel L. Jackson himself said that Mitch Hennessy, that's who he plays in this movie. Mitch Hennessy is like a washed up PI. Very good movie. He even said when he was asked what was the favorite character of the many characters that he played in his career, up until this point, he said Mitch Hennessy is his favorite character. I'm not sure if that still holds up to today, but if you watch this movie, you will see that he really enjoyed playing Mitch Hennessy. Mitch Hennessy, the character, reminds me a little bit of the character that he played in The Protege. That didn't make this list because he got screen time, but it was more of a Maggie Q movie than anything else. But if you saw The Protege, you'll think that this movie will pop into your mind because it's almost the same. Samuel Jackson's like a mentor, but even though he's not a mentor in this one, he's more of a sidekick than anything else. Really good movie. Long Kiss Goodnight. Let's see. Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction. This will always come up in a favorite Samuel L. Jackson movie, rightfully so. He did a good job in this. My favorite scene was at the guy's apartment and talking about what? Say what again? I dare you. I double dare you. So Samuel L. Jackson did a hell of a job in Pulp Fiction. We all know what Pulp Fiction was about. This is probably one of my favorites, Samuel L. Jackson's performances. This is one of my favorites. The Hateful Eight. The Hateful Eight, Samuel L. Jackson did such an amazing job in this movie. Just like I haven't seen a movie where I may have saw a movie that I didn't really care too much that he was in, but I always loved his performances in everything he played in. I don't think Samuel L. Jackson had a bad performance yet. He plays a retired, was he a lieutenant or colonel? He had rank in the military, but he was in a black division. You know, back then, back in the this looked like the early 1900s or late 1800s. The black people, they served, but they served over here, and everybody else served over there. But this was a good movie. It was set, the whole movie, for the most part, was shot in a cabin. I love movies like this, where the whole movie is pretty much shot in one area, like Friday, shot on that one porch for the most part. It moved off the porch, but very briefly, and it came right back to it. This movie was basically all done in the cabin. Samuel L. Jackson, again, he had me rolling throughout the whole movie. He was very serious at points and funny at other points. That's just the nature of the man. And again, this wasn't really what you would call a Samuel L. Jackson movie, but his performance in this was insane. Steven, to this day, people talk about Steven. There's memes, there's all kinds of, when you start talking about snitches and stuff like that, Steven is the first thing to pop into your head. Steven played the quintessential bootlicking coon that you would ever want to talk about. Movie was fantastic. Samuel L. Jackson, everybody in this performance was excellent, but Samuel L. Jackson, his portrayal of Steven was off the chain in this. So that's 10 really cool Samuel L. Jackson movies. Again, they may not be the best Samuel L. Jackson movies. No MCU stuff is in here. These are just some standalone Samuel L. Jackson movies. There's many more out there. These are just 10 that I pulled from the collection to talk about, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.